The anti-Trump resistance collapses as President Trump unmasks the Unmaskers. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. That's right, the coup attempt against President Trump has failed. It is faltered. It's imploded. And we're going to take a look at how President Trump is exposing the deep state like never before, and one Joe Biden turns out to be literally at the center of it all. You're going to absolutely love it. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Certainly hope you're all safe and sound. If this is your first time with us and you're looking for some daily encouragement and optimism in the midst of all this nonsense from our left-wing Marxist media, then you have found your oasis in this channel. We analyze current events and a lot of super awesome conservative trends so that you can live in the present in light of even better things to come. We help you to think better so that you can feel better. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where each and every day we together get to celebrate the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. So let's start with our video chat question of the day. Do you believe that Trump will bring down Obama and Biden? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. With the latest revelations that both Obama and Biden were indeed at the heart of the coup against Trump, do you believe that Trump is going to bring them down? Will Biden's campaign completely sputter and collapse? And will Obama be forever tarnished as having attempted to overturn the results of a Democratic election? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, because really every day we're getting new revelations of just how corrupt the Obama administration really was. And these aren't just, it's not just accusations. These are cold, hard facts with solid evidence implicating Obama officials, most especially Biden, in the deliberate attempt at overthrowing a president. But first, we all know it's tough out there right now, especially financially. And so many of us are thinking, maybe the best way to protect our savings is to invest in gold. But did you know that you can actually buy, sell, save, and even spend gold with a special app and debit card? Well, you can. It's called Swipe with Gold, and it makes buying and selling with gold super easy. You simply download the app, and your prepaid debit MasterCard will be delivered directly to you by mail in only a few days, absolutely free. You just load on your cash, and you're ready to buy, sell, save, and spend in real physical gold that you own. It's that simple. So make sure to click on the link below or visit swipewithgold.com. That's swipewithgold.com, and download the app right now to get your free card and start using real gold as money today. All right, let's dive right in here. We've got some amazing developments in the fall of the resistance, the collapse of the anti-Trump resistance. The Director of National Intelligence, Richard Grenell, has just released a bombshell report implicating former Vice President Joe Biden and a number of other top government officials to what's called the unmasking of Michael Flynn's identity. Now, if you don't know, it's an interesting term. Unmasking is a term used among intelligence officials in reference to revealing the identity of someone, generally an American citizen, who's been monitored under surveillance. So what's known as the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, that's better known as FISA, intelligence agents can and frequently do eavesdrop on foreign nationals while they're on U.S. soil. This could be ambassadors, it could be business owners, you name it. But and here's the key in all this. If a foreign national is speaking with a U.S. citizen under that surveillance, that citizen has the right to have their identity protected, or in this case, masked. So what that means is that intelligence agents cannot use this person's name in their files and disclosures of the content of the conversation. So they have to use an alias like person one when they put their transcripts together. Now, the protocol here is that if U.S. officials believe that a crime is in the process of being committed, right, or if there's a threat to national security, is something really, really serious going on, they can request that the National Security Agency unmask the U.S. citizen involved. That is, reveal the identity of the U.S. citizen. If that identity is unmasked or revealed, it's a crime to leak that identity to the press, and it's almost always the case that the U.S. officials requesting the unmasking, they are also left unnamed in the classified documents recording the procedure. So the fact that we now know that Biden was one of the top government officials requesting that Michael Flynn be unmasked, that in of itself is a huge deal. It's showing that the Trump administration is actively engaged in exposing for all to see this fraud, this hoax that was perpetrated on the American people and indeed the world, right, for Russia for 3 years. Trump is unmasking the unmaskers. Again, because we now know, and this is another key here, we now know Flynn was unmasked not because he was a person of interest in the uncovering of a crime or a felony or anything like that. There was nothing about Flynn or his conversation with the Russian ambassador that would qualify him as a person of interest. That was the conclusion of the FBI. They weren't discussing a drug deal. They weren't discussing, exchanging money for political favors. The FBI knew there was no collusion. Their conversation was perfectly appropriate given the protocols of establishing relational rapport between a new incoming presidential administration and the Russian state. Flynn was not unmasked because he was a person of interest in a criminal investigation. We now know that Biden wanted Flynn unmasked precisely because Flynn was a political target to bring down Trump. And we know this because Biden's efforts to unmask Flynn were joined by then FBI Director James Comey, who, if you remember, is the one who started the surveillance of Flynn by obtaining the FISA warrants necessary to spy on the Trump campaign. And how did Comey do that? Well, he did that by submitting the anti-Trump Russian dossier as grounds for those FISA warrants, even though he knew that document was in fact a fraud, the work of an opposition research team we now know as Fusion GPS, that was bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign. So Comey knew that he and others were attempting to obtain these warrants using fraudulent information. You may ask, why was he doing that in the first place? Well, again, we now know by virtue of the text messages that were sent back and forth between the now defunct and disgraced FBI agent Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who he was having an affair with, that this surveillance was conducted as what they called an insurance policy in case Trump won the election. And the motive here is that if Trump won the election, he would have access to all of this intelligence and he would have access to the Hillary Clinton obstruction of justice investigation, which was, of course, in response to her getting caught deliberately deleting subpoenaed emails from a private server that was, of course, hacked by foreign nationals. That investigation was overseen by both James Comey and Peter Strzok. And we now know that they had exonerated Hillary Clinton before the investigation even began. Again, we know this because records show that Comey had already written up an exoneration of Hillary before he even interviewed her. So Comey and Strzok perpetrated a sham investigation. And as part of an insurance policy against that being exposed, in the case that Trump won the election, they decided to make Trump's national security advisor, Michael Flynn, into a target using the phony Russian dossier bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign. They framed Flynn as a possible Russian agent and turned him into a target of this rogue investigation, which meant that anyone Flynn came into contact with could be incidentally implicated in connection with foreign intelligence because Flynn is now supposedly some kind of Russian agent. And this way they thought they could ultimately implicate Trump through this hoax that they knowingly perpetrated. And so this is why it was so important for Flynn to get unmasked, exposed. Because by revealing Flynn, then top officials in the U.S. government could reveal others in his inner circle who were apparently caught up in this whole fabricated Russian attempt to infiltrate our government. And the prize in all of that would be implicating Trump. And so we now know that Joe Biden, the then vice president, and FBI Director James Comey were together in a meeting with then President Barack Obama and Attorney General Sally Yates on January 5th, 2017. That's an interesting date because the day before, January 4th, January 4th is so important because that was the date the FBI concluded officially they found no evidence of collusion between Michael Flynn and Russia. This is where the investigation of Flynn should have ended. But instead, on January 5th, according to the testimony of Attorney General Sally Yates, she heard Obama, Biden, and Comey discussing openly the wiretap conversation between Mike Flynn and the Russian ambassador, for which there was no problem. But it was at that meeting when Comey brought up using the Logan Act to implicate Flynn. Remember now, the Logan Act is a 1799 law that's never been used to successfully prosecute a single person in this country in over 200 years. It's grossly unconstitutional. Perhaps one of the benefits of all this, it'll finally be repealed. But the important point here is that in the invoking of the Logan Act was itself proof that Obama and Comey and Biden knew they didn't have anything on Michael Flynn, and that he was being completely and totally targeted for political purposes. The investigation continued for political purposes. You know, the very thing that CNN and MSNBC were accusing Trump of doing for 3 years, right? Yeah, that. So we know now that Biden and Comey and Obama were all in on this together. But here's what makes the unmasking so interesting. Remember, unmasking Flynn was necessary in order to implicate anyone around him in this fabricated Russian collusion hoax. So that's why they had to unmask Flynn, revealing who the U.S. citizen at the center of this, what turned out to be a hoax, was integral to implicating others in Flynn's inner circle. And the big prize in that would be implicating Donald Trump. Do you want to take a guess at the date for the initial request for the unmasking of Flynn from Biden and others? Do you want to take a guess as to the date Biden and others requested Flynn be unmasked? You ready for this date? It's going to blow your brain if you don't know it. This is according to National Security Agency emails. The date for the initial unmasking of Flynn requested was November 8th, 2016. Does anyone want to take a guess at what happened on November 8th, 2016? That, my friends, was Election Day. Around 10 or 11 p.m. that night, it became apparent to all that Donald Trump was going to win that election. On November 8th, the Obama administration suddenly realized Trump was going to win. In 10 weeks, he was going to have access to all the intelligence files in the United States, and they recognized that they had to put together a full cover-up to make it look like this whole Russian fraud that was originally bought and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign that was used to get the FISA warrants to spy on his campaign to begin with. They had to make it look like it was real. And so Flynn was exposed so that they could implicate his inner circle, most especially Donald Trump. And in this whole hoax designed to cover up their own corruption, it is the epitome of an Orwellian world where Big Brother accuses others of the very corruption that Big Brother perpetuates. The beauty in all of this is that the anti-Trump resistance, which was heralded and celebrated and indeed expanded, enhanced, furthered by the mainstream Marxist media, CNN, MSNBC, most particularly that queen of fake news, Rachel Maddow, the New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, day after day, 24/7 for 3 straight years. That's all we heard heralded from them. Full willing participants in this complete and total fraud, this hoax, this lie. The anti-Trump resistance, my friends, has crumbled. It's imploded. It's been defeated. And now it's President Trump's turn to unmask the unmaskers and expose them to all the world for the frauds that they are, starting with none other than one bumbling Joe Biden. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on the GOP sweep of the special elections the other day, which more and more pundits believe is signaling a massive red wave for November. It's going to absolutely make your day. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.